Just very quickly, I've been here for about 2 weeks. It is my understanding that a previously negotiated contract called for a 2.5% cost of living adjustment if certain benchmarks were met, and those benchmarks were sick usage, and Human Resources has certified that those benchmarks were made, and this is before council to ratify that particular provision of the contract again.
Okay, thank you.
Because the pay scale technically has to be changed, right, but it's in the contract. It's not really a matter of choice.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions or any comments?
I'll move that we recommend approval for tomorrow night.
So moved. I don't think we need a second at the committee. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The committee is going to recommend pay scale for tomorrow night. Now we have the review of resolution regarding the emergency procurement request, H.T. Lyons. Council has the information. Mr. Executive?
If I might, sir.
Sure.
On my second day, I was informed that there were sanitary pipes that were leaking at Graysdale, and that we needed because they were sanitary pipes, we needed on an emergent basis to go out, get quotes to fix said pipes. We did that. We followed all of the procedures as laid out in the administrative code, and it's here before you now for your consideration.
Once again, thank you. Any questions? Issues?
Just one, Mr. Kraft, did you sign off on this?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Then I'll make a recommendation to approve for tomorrow.
Okay. Council, do we have everybody yay? Whoever's on the committee. Who wants to say yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Any nays? Committee recommends. We move that forward to tomorrow. All right, now we have the review of the Article 13 contracts. Now, I know we have that. What did I skip? Sorry. Oh, by all means. No, anytime we can get some donations. Review of a donation to the Division of Information Referral Emergency Services. Emergency Services Crisis Fund Resolution, and we do have a copy of that because I was looking over that just yesterday. Do we have any comment about that at all from anyone? Any questions or concerns? I think great when we can get contributions. So, anybody want to make a motion from the committee to move it forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we accept that.
Thank you, Mr. Werner. Committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're going to recommend that go forward. Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Chairman, just a recommendation. Could we send a letter then to the, who is it that donated the
Star?
Pier Star? Yeah,
Absolutely.
If we could send them a letter of thanks, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, that's great. Let's do that. All right, so let's move on then to the review. I guess we're going to go down the line on each one. We should be able to move it along unless there's any big issues. Let's start with the TOC Services, LLC, and Stevens Removal Services. I don't know if the committee's had a chance to look at these and peruse them. If you have any questions or any comments, anyone from the floor wants to address, entertain those now. Seem pretty straightforward. So, how does the committee feel about the TOC services then?
Mr. Chairman, we have the coroner here to address this.
Oh, Mr. Lysak. Of course. We'll always hear from Mr. Lysak. If you know what's good for you.
So my recommendation on this would be to accept both as a contract with both of them. TOC will be our primary use for their services, and then Steve's Removal Service would be a backup services. Based on the contracts and my review of them, certainly TOC is slightly cheaper and it's more to offer, but I think having the ability to have a second as a backup, as we did in the previous contract, We had TOC Services as primary and J.H. Gilbert Services as a backup. My recommendation to council would be to have both of them.
Thank you, Ms. Lysak. Any questions for Ms. Lysak at all? Committee members?
Motion to recommend approval.
We have a motion to recommend approval. All those in favor of the committee?
Aye.
Everybody okay? Opposed? All right, recommend that it go forward. Jupiter Painting Control Contract. Anyone want to talk about that?
As you might imagine, a inherited process, but this is bridge painting. And we had 16 firms who assessed the bid documents, and 3 firms submitted valid bids. You can see on the bid documentation that the bidder that we are recommending to you also happened to be the lowest responsible bidder.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
Mr. Kohler is here if you'd like to speak regarding that. I don't know if you'd like to hear from her or not.
Mr. Kohler, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or
I did some research on Juniper. As Mr. Kraft knows, he's a painting guru, I think, here in the valley as well. There were no local firms that actually bid, which was kind of strange with the number of bidders we had. We actually have 4 bidders, but 1 was rejected. So naturally, according to county by rules and so on and so forth, we got to go with the low bidder. I never heard of Juniper per se myself, because we always had LZ Painting in Bethlehem or another firm from Ohio that's done work many years ago
yes.
for us. When I reached out to PennDOT, I saw their 3-year financials which came into the county. I reached out to PennDOT, asked them. They got a very good repertoire with them. Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission's got a good repertoire with them. Turnpike Commission's got, yeah, as you can see, the agencies that they've been dealing with. And a contractor we deal with a lot, Bi-State Construction here in town, who the owner is Greg DiNardo. I reached out to him, and he couldn't say enough about them. So I don't have any issues with giving them the contract. If there's something there that somebody knows about them that I don't know, gladly pass on the information, but right now I don't see an issue with them.
All right. Yeah, I think our painting wizard, or whatever you call him, Mr. Kraft, would give us a heads up if he had heard anything.
Just one quick
Sure.
question. The
Yes.
discrepancy in the bids, the low bid was $787,000, and the high bid was $1 million more.
And our cost estimate, when it came in from the engineer, I think it was about $750,000. So even our low bid's still a little bit higher than what we thought it would be. The other 2 firms are from way out of the area, so I think we're paying for the hotel, the travel, so on and so forth.
Now, you're
Where
not-
Juniper's right down here in Bristol.
You know, you're not paying for hotel and travel from these people either. They're going to use local people out of the union. So
Yeah, okay. Well, then they got one heck of a markup from what I was told.
Well, it sounds like you made a wise choice. Just related but unrelated, I know Mr. Cusick had a question. When I was coming to the last meetings of the year, questions came up regarding the bridges in general, actually Route 33, and some of the lighting and who was responsible, who wasn't. And I'll be honest, sitting in the audience, I couldn't figure out the answer that was given. So I'm just wondering, not now obviously, but somewhere down the road, Mr. Executive, or through the department, if we could get a clarification maybe on on just what we are responsible for.
Are you talking about bridges on 33 or the highway lighting? On
Lighting. I was unaware of that. And
Okay,
I'm just
because
throwing that out now.
I've been here for 35 years.
Yeah.
It's a screwed up fiasco, to say the least. It's something that comes back to PennDOT. I'll be real brief. If it can, from what I understand from PennDOT, if a community requests highway lighting, if PennDOT grants it, they will have it installed.
Right.
But nothing says that that community actually has to pay for it. If they default, it gets dumped on the county. Well, we have a 50-50 split with PennDOT for reimbursement costs. But since we use our LFT for that, actually PennDOT's paying the whole bill. There's no county dollars associated with it.
Okay. I mean, probably some of the sitting council members remember better than I, but I think, and again, we didn't have to do it now.
No, I understand.
There were some issues regarding contracts that were signed, I think, with PennDOT and I believe it goes back even to the Stouffer administration. I don't know with Mr. Brown, but it seemed, I don't know, maybe Mr. Cusick, you seemed confused at that meeting, and I certainly was confused, but I
believe those contracts, some I think go back about 10 years.
I just thought maybe at some point when the administration has a chance to deal with the real big issues, and I know they have a lot on their plate right now.
Well, if you'd like to give me a call, John, if you'd like to get together sometime, I'll try to explain it.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to discuss a new Director of Public Works later this afternoon, so I think the prudent course of action would be when that gentleman takes the position, maybe he could research the issue and give us some feedback.
Yeah, not every, just so you know, too, not every interchange on 33, the lighting belongs to us.
Yeah, I got that gist.
Palmer Township has the Schrin interchange. We have nothing in Wing Gap. That's a whole other issue. I won't get into it here. The interchanges in Bethlehem Township are Freedomsburg and William Penn. They belong to Bethlehem Township. I-78 belongs to PennDOT because that's an interstate highway.
All right.
So that gives you some insight, what you're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Appreciate it.
Any other?
Any questions? All right. Anybody want to make a motion to move this forward?
Also moved.
Werner, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move that forward for council as a whole. Lehigh Valley Workforce Investment Board, Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley. Anybody want to talk about that, or we have? Okay.
Mr. Buskirk's here, and I think he's looked into this at a deeper level than I have. We previously had a $500,000 grant for this program. That grant expired. The previous administration budgeted for 2008, and then its body passed. I believe it was $275,000 to continue the program. There's probably a little bit of shortfall in the funding. This is, what would we call this, a worker retraining program? Pre-release program, so that when folks are leaving our custody and getting back out into the world, this program attempts to help them prepare to get a job. Correct. And at this juncture, we think it prudent to continue with the program, despite the fact that we don't have any grant money anymore, and this is now county money, until we can have. We're a results-based, and we believe in taking a look at programs to see if they're actually effective. And we're going to take this year to see if people are actually getting jobs or at least being assisted. I know it's sort of an amorphous thing. Sometimes you can't really tell when something helps somebody get a job. But if we can find some way that we can quantify how this program's working, we might come to you again next year and ask you to continue to fund it, or we might not, depending on what we find out during the process. But we think it's important to keep it moving forward, and we're going to study it very closely and watch and see what happens. I think Mr. Buskirk may have some additional.
Did I steal all you did it all? It was great. The only thing is, when we looked in our budget, most of the finances are there. We were short 80 to 85,000. That was not budgeted for this. Within our $28 million contract, I'm sure we can find the 80,000. So I would not come back and ask for any additional funding from council. We're going to use the funds from our budget to pay for it.
Any questions? It sounds like it sounds great in your experience. I mean, this is what we got to be looking at now. I always said we can't build our way out of prison situations. So these kind of programs, I think, are great. Thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to add one thing. I know it's tough for these guys to get a job when they come out of prison, because what's the first thing they ask you? Where you been the last couple of years, right? And they can't really rely on the application, so it's a tough thing for them to try to get a job. So.
And again, there's some bills out there on the federal level to eliminate that from job applications. I think the important thing for county council to understand is the people that we release, and do, well, in my day, 4,200 commitments a year. 98% of them go back to the local community. So the 2% that you read about in the paper and see on Channel 69 News that do these horrific crimes against society, that we don't have those people very long. They end up in the state system. But keep in mind, what we're turning back to our local community is 98% of those people. So, we have an obligation to do something for them, or at least assist them, and point them in the right direction. And programming is one of those ways to do it. Okay.
No. If you're going to roll the dice or take a chance, I'd rather do it on people than than buildings. So, thank you,
Thank you.
Todd. All right, council, any questions? No. All right, anybody want to propose we move this on?
Recommendation to approve for tomorrow night.
All those in favor on the committee?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving it on. And now we're down to Wind Gap Electric. Anybody have anything about Wind Gap? You saw the information. It was pretty straightforward. Council have any comments, questions? All right. Do we, anybody want to move that we move this baby on?
Recommendation, move
Be
forward.
more formal. This, all right, fine. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're moving it on. Do we have any other thing anybody wants to talk about? Finance?
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, at the end of the last budget season, County Council passed a grant for approximately $10 million for what at that time was supposed to be an aquarium. And it's now come to my attention that there is no longer going to be an aquarium. So I think at some point this council needs to revisit that grant, because as it stands, what we voted for is not what is currently before us. So my hope is that this is something that either the Finance Committee or the Economic Development Committee looks at in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Dietz?
Yeah, just as the President Kraft and I had spoken about it, and actually do plan to put ordinance together and present it in the first meeting of February to have a vote on the withdrawing and the funding of that based on the changes put out there through the aquarium.
I would certainly agree there's been major changes. I don't think anybody else have it. I guess, Mr. Kraft, we can talk. I don't know if it'll go to a committee first or just right to the council as a whole, but you can decide what you think about that.
I haven't seen what's going to be proposed or what's going to be, so I don't know right at this moment.
I had a feeling that topic would come up, so I hear you, Mr. Kusick. I think anybody else? All right. So did we move on Wind Gap? Oh, no, we had. So we're ready to adjourn. Move to adjourn?
So moved.
Let's adjourn. Mr. Kraft, was that fast enough? All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to start the Personnel Committee. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight, and my first time running a meeting. Not, of course, that wasn't Ron's first time running a meeting. Oh, absolutely.
I need glasses. She's going to get me glasses.
Okay.
Well, see, I had it, but Mr. Kraft told me not to use my computer. I apologize. I can't read the paper.
Bear with us for a second.
Go ahead, you could start.
Is there anybody from the floor that would like to speak at this time? Would be a good time to speak.
Thank you.
Seeing that there is none, we'd like to move into the review of the county executive nominations to move them forward. And the first up is appointment of Charles Dertinger for the position of Director of Administration. Is Charles Dertinger here tonight? We can put him at the. Do you have something? Okay. Okay. Bear with us again, please, for a second.
Well, he'll be right here.
Might be in the restroom or something.
I think Chairman Heckman moved more expeditiously through the Finance Committee meeting than was.
That's an experience.
Was previously thought, and I'll take the blame. I suggested to the nominees that the meeting would probably start around 4:30. Okay. So it's my fault. But while we're doing this, and this isn't a filibuster, it's easier to speak in a heartfelt fashion when there people aren't actually here to hear it. In addition to being a fine public servant, while Charles served on the county council for 4 years, he, as many people know, was instrumental in getting the open space and farmland preservation, environmentally sensitive land preservation program kick-started working with the Stofa administration when they passed that dedicated tax, and they really did some fine work with that. And it's just one of the things that he's done in his time of public service that I think commends him well to be Director of Administration. And he is my friend, and I know him well. And he'll, when I'm unable to be in a meeting or take a phone call or be here before you on any given night, Charles Dertingers is the best person in the county for you, because he'll have, I think, the best sense of what I would do were I standing there in front of you. So with that, here's Charles.
Thank you. Charles, we introduced you, and we just wanted to have a couple of words for us.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Well, first and foremost, I do thank you for this opportunity to address you. I think having a Director of Administration who had been sitting where you're sitting now is a unique opportunity. I understand the frustrations that some of you who've been sitting here already have felt with administrations in the past, not understanding your responsibilities, not understanding the duties, and certainly not understanding how it is to be on council. So I would like to make certain that the relationship between the administration and council is significantly stronger than it's been in the past, and the strongest it can be. Certainly, I know while I was sitting here, there were altogether too many times where the administration either stonewalled us or provided us factually correct but really otherwise incorrect information. And I want to make sure that you guys know exactly what's going on, that you're in and you understand what we're looking at, what the issues are, so that that's never a problem. So that you feel comfortable with what goes on, rather than wondering or even just trying to guess at where things are moving along to.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Mr. Dertinger?
I'm just going to be fully supportive of Charles, and he has my vote, and I recommend that we pass him on to full council tomorrow night for a vote.
Is that in a full motion? Question, Mr. Cusick.
Welcome back, Mr.
Thank you.
Dertinger. I had a couple. These are more policy questions, and Mr. McClure, you could probably step in if you'd like. Perhaps you recall during Mr. Stover's administration, the 911 and emergency management departments were moved from the sheriff's office to the Department of Administration. And the reasoning was because you recall at that time the Director of Administration appointee had a background in this. I guess my question is, do you intend to keep those departments under administration, or have you given any thoughts to moving that back to the sheriff? Has that come up as part of your discussion?
Actually, I have given it some thought, and I'm not prepared to announce at this time what I will come to council with in the future, but I have given it thought.
Okay.
Your point is well taken.
Thank you, and I look forward to that. And then the other one is we touched on before, the open space program. At the end of last year, the municipal park component ended. And I believe I had some discussions with our new chairman, and I was wondering if you've given any thoughts as to what you think that part of the program will be, and how that fits in with livable landscapes, and what your approach will be towards that whole department that you'll be sitting over.
I've always believed that the municipal portion of that was very important, because there's only certain parts of the county that will benefit from, I mean, everyone benefits from farms not turning into giant developments. But there are smaller places, Bath, Nazareth, that really don't see the same benefits there. You remember when I sat here, I always advocated for just about everything that came along that way. So I will be continuing to advocate for that and make sure that that is a component.
Okay. So my hope is that you work with council and our new open space chairman to review the municipal park plan and have something to put forward in the future. Thank you, and I will support your nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, congratulations on your appointment. That's the first
Thank
thing.
you.
Secondly, this isn't really a question. I just wanted to point something out that I thought was interesting. I read your resume. I went through all the interesting things that you've been involved with. election commissions, construction manager, a bunch of other things. You have something in common with a gentleman that I liked a lot, Tom Harp. Okay? And Mr. Harp had 35 years in human services, state bureau director. He also cut his salary in half to take this position, okay? And I just hope that I understand in business what you're doing. I just hope this becomes worthwhile to you in your endeavors, okay?
Why, thank you.
Thanks for your statement. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, somebody wants to make a motion on the committee?
I second.
Okay, we got two. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move that forward to tomorrow night's meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Derdinger, and good luck.
Thank you, Charles. You don't need a second.
Next, we have appointment of Tina Smith. Tina, could you come up, please? For the position of Director of Department of Community and Economic Development.
I just want to brief, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
If you'll indulge
Absolutely.
me, just very briefly.
Please.
I mean, Ms. Smith is, I think, the poster person for what I envision our Department of Community and Economic Development to be going forward for the county over the next several years, because, as you and we went to our first Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation board meeting yesterday.
Yes.
In the Lehigh Valley, it is a reality that the large economic development projects are done essentially for the counties by LVEDC. I do not anticipate that changing in the near future. What I think in Northampton County we need to focus on are the community development aspects of our Department of Community and Economic Development and our small business development. And I think Ms. Smith's the person to do that for us, and
Yes.
I'll sit down
Absolutely.
and ask her about that.
Thank you, Lamont. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you want to just introduce yourself and to the board.
Yes, Tina Smith. I am the nominee for the Community and Economic Development.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Smith? Ron?
Hi.
Hi.
Mr. Heckman?
Mr. McClure just sort of gave an overview of his direction. And I agree with what he's saying. I know in the past year when I was around the county, in boroughs like Nazareth, Bath, and you mentioned, and others, there was a sense of, and I know there's been work done, of revival somehow, some way. They don't often see the projects that we see in a Bethlehem or in Allentown or in Easton. And he said that your plan is more of the community development, because I know with economic development there's so many big groups out there, and from my own past experience, every time some business opened up a job with 50 to 100 jobs, we'd have 10 organizations coming in taking credit for it. So it seemed like they have that area covered. But I agree. I think it's a great, if that's the direction that your economic development, community development takes. I know in my work with the aging, in the United Way Aging Alliance, there's a lot of talk about planned communities and how developers are actually building them with the shopping center and homes and then retiree. And in a weird way, we already have that with a lot of the boroughs and towns. And there's housing there for pretty much any price range. And there, at one time, was downtowns. I remember shopping at the 5 and 10 in downtown Nazareth. That'll date me. But the thing is, so I agree with that direction, and I wish you luck with that. And I do hope that we pursue, as a county, really look into that. That's all. I just wanted to add my support.
Okay, sure. Sure.
I just want to make a comment. I know that you've done a phenomenal job with the chamber, growing its membership, and also with the small businesses, and I want you to know that I fully support you, and I endorse you. I'm really excited about Tina.
Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just my work and, being very small business friendly. I think the small business community is the backbone, and it's their workers and their employees that are supporting the big businesses. So bringing together everybody hand in hand, I think, is going to be vital.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal, and I think that's exactly what we need. Grow the small businesses. That's a grassroots effort. That's what's going to make us stronger in Northampton County and keep us being swallowed from other counties and big box warehouses and stuff like that. So more of that, that's what we need. Thank you.
John, Mr. Cusick?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I had a couple questions, and I agree with Mr. McClure about the community part of the development. And we do have two key programs that I believe are vital to that. The first one is the hotel tax for tourism, and the second one is the Community Investment Partnership Program that the last administration started. Have you had any discussions, or have you been able to review those programs? And if so, can you maybe tell us what you think of them and how you will administratively oversee them?
Briefly, because I'm obviously still very employed in my full-time day job. But part of my background is hospitality, so I'm very familiar with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and how the hotel revenue works. And I think that's an important part of our revenue stream, obviously. For the CIPP grants, I'm part of the Nazareth Economic Development Commission, and so we worked hand in hand with our downtown borough manager to sit through those grant presentations and the scoring reviews for the businesses who have been awarded those grants in downtown Nazareth.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Sure.
I just wanted you to tell us what are some goals and some visions that you have for this position, if granted.
Thank you. Just to make the county the best it can be for all of us as residents, and our businesses maintain what we've got and continue to grow. I think we are a shining star in the whole state of Pennsylvania, and I think we've got a lot of potential. We just need to put our best foot forward and be hardworking and dedicated, which I will be.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Warner.
Thank you. Tina, okay, congratulations on your appointment. And you have my full support, and I'll tell you why, okay? I know you have a personality and a people skills for tourism. I know how you promoted the chamber. I know what you've done with the chamber up there in Nazareth, okay? And I watched you personally handle people in many events. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you know you have a big learning curve on the economic development score. I hope you work well with the people that are there to guide you. It is a lot to digest,
Sure.
and we don't expect in the next week or so that you'll have it all under cover, but I know that you have the capabilities, and I just wanted you to know you have our full support.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, seeing no other questions from the committee, then how about a motion to move Ms. Tina Smith's appointment to the position of Director of Department of Community and Economic Development?
My motion.
Okay. Ms. Margot Hefner? All right.
Second.
The committee, yes, that's good though, but the committee.
Kenny.
We will so move to tomorrow night's meeting. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, all in favor? Okay. Thank you, President.
Who's next?
Stephen J. Barrett.
All right. Next, Mr. Stephen Barron for the position of Director of Financial Affairs.
Mr. Chairman, there are a myriad of reasons that I selected this particular nominee, but the primary reason was because he is a public servant who probably in the county understands best the county budget, its finances, what my policy goals are, and how to realize those policy goals. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Barron?
Good afternoon, members of council. I'm honored to be nominated, and any questions you might have of me, I'd be happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Cusick?
Welcome. As you know, the last administration did some movement with the accountants out of the departments under fiscal affairs. What is your sense of how that worked, and are you in favor of keeping that, or would you like to go back to the old way?
I've talked with Mary Alice Heinfeld about some of those movements and changes just to kind of understand. There's a lot going on right now in the department with just getting the new administration in place, and I am going to look at that or talk about some of those and make a recommendation to the executive. And based on what we're looking at, what the budget impact would be, we'll move forward based on like a joint decision as if that's a good fit to stay the same, or if we go back to something the old way, or maybe a hybrid of what's there and what we did in the past. So we're still evaluating that at this point.
Yeah. In your current role, you've made some suggestions for potential changes to the administrative code. I guess my question is, in your new role, do you anticipate continuing to suggest some of the recommendations and working with council to implement them?
I received via email today the Word file for Article 13 of the Administrative Code. So, yes, that is on the agenda.
Okay. And then my last question, and this has been a stickler for about 2 years now for me. I believe there was some sort of attempt from your office to work something out with the Airbnbs of the world to collect hotel taxes. Will that be something on your agenda that the previous administration neglected?
Yes, there's a lot of stuff with the contract, and I think a lot of that has to do with the solicitor's department and what we're going to get from Airbnb, and then, of course, what Mr. McClure would like to do with regard to the good deal, or whether it's a good deal or not. One of the intricacies of those contracts is that Airbnb will not disclose like fees collected or who they collect it from, and it doesn't give you a good way to kind of test to make sure you're actually getting the revenue you're entitled to. I don't know that you can change that contract because it's boilerplate, but it always helps to give it a look and see. And I don't know. I haven't really studied the deal all that well, because after suggesting it as a controller, the follow-up there is it's not within my purview, or it wasn't in my purview to make policy. So that is something that I would definitely review, though. Something I would like to try to collect revenue on, though, absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I intend to support this nomination.
Any other? Sure.
Just I've worked with Mr. Barron quite a bit in the Controller's office on various topics and issues, and I look forward to supporting you and working with you going forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Heckman?
Mr. Barron.
Mr. Heckman.
Now, now that I'm chairman of the Finance Committee, I think we'll be having a lot of interaction, and I'm looking forward to your fiscal eloquence. And hopefully you'll be able, once you have a chance to get your feet on the ground. I know every administration coming in, there's the books, and then when they sit down and look at the books themselves, they go, oh my, this isn't what I thought it was. So hopefully you will keep council in the loop, and I think that's all council can really ask of just about any appointment. I know when I first was on council, there was what they called the October surprise, when council was approached in October and said, whoops, we don't have enough money to cover the year, which is a bad time to come to council and say that. So, I mean, I think things have changed since then. But anyway, I look forward to working with you, and I will be supporting your nomination.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All
I
right.
do. Why should we pick you?
Well, I think Mr. McClure summed it up wonderfully, but I do love working for the county. It's really, truly one of the honors to be elected controller for the last 10 years in public service, and I think this allows me to help Mr. McClure fulfill his promises to the voters, and I look forward, if you see so fit to do so, continuing my public service to the county in this way as Director of Fiscal Affairs.
follow-up to that. In all seriousness, what do you think the biggest transition is going to be from your current position to this one?
I think that being an elected official gives you a unique perspective on certain things, and I think working for an administration is going to be a new perspective for me, which I like. The stuff I've been involved with so far has been a lot of fun, and it's been like a very good collaborative effort with everybody involved, from the people who work in fiscal to the new executive to just the folks talking to the new members who are going to hopefully be coming on board in this administration pending your vote. So I think for the hardest transition part is going to be to figure out how I get my stuff from across the street over to the new office. I mean, seriously, that's
okay.
It's all been fun.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Just one thing.
Oh, Mr. Werner.
Mr. Barron.
Yes.
Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Okay, and I find your humility really great. I think this is, watching you sit here is great. I think it's exciting for you. I do have a serious question, though. We did talk about salary reviews, and I was wondering what your position is on that.
Well, I know there's a lot of departments that, as controller, when we would do audits with regard to just comp time versus overtime, the compression in some of the departments, I think that based on direction from the administration, I would follow the money through on any recommendation that comes up from either council or the executive to determine what's fiscally responsible to move forward and what matches the agenda of the county executive. Does that answer your question?
No, but that's
No.
okay. It's not a yes or no, but that's okay. I'm used to that from you, Steve.
I mean, I think, I mean, are there issues with the salary?
There are,
Yes.
I know that.
But,
And I'm looking
yes.
forward to you, as you have in the past, putting your nose, your face, your fingers, and everything to come up with what you need, okay? And that's fine. I do want to ask you if you're going to keep the kilt.
Are you going to make it out of that scarf back there? Is there enough
If you'd
material?
like, yeah.
Okay.
I will be voting for you, too.
With no,
Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. With no other further
you, Steve.
questions that I see.
Make a nomination.
Motion to move forward.
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Kraft.
Aye.
All those in
Second.
favor? All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. You have enough material for a kilt over there?
No, but we would need a lot more than, yeah.
Okay.
Just very quickly to clarify, he's not permitted to wear that kilt.
Oh, good, excellent.
That's
put that in an
that's a
ordinance?
positive work order.
Make that an ordinance, and we'll...
Yeah, no, he knows.
Okay. Appointment of Elizabeth Kelly to the position of Director of Human Resources. Ms. Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, one of the things I've tried very hard to do since taking office is not to look backwards. But in this particular instance, I think it's important to learn from the experiences of the last administration. And they had some difficulties with human resources, frankly. And one of the complaints that I commonly heard was that there was a general disregard for the rules and regulations that this body and executives through the years have developed for our employees. And it's led, some of the decisions that were made led to lawsuits and several $100,000 verdicts. And one of the reasons I reached out and aggressively courted Ms. Kelly to try and get her to come to work for us is because she's an attorney, but she's an attorney who also has practical human resources experience, which you can ask her about. So I think that with 11 bargaining units and our almost 2,000 currently employees, she is the right person at the right time to help us create a stable employment environment, which is something that I think the county has not had for a number of years. And I think this is important because our services will be delivered more effectively, more efficiently, more cost effectively if we do have that kind of environment. And I think Ms. Kelly's going to help us do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McClure, for that introduction.
If you want to introduce yourself to the board.
Sure. My name is Liz Kelly. It's actually Elizabeth Kelly. I go by Liz. And what Mr. McClure said is correct. I am an attorney from Bethlehem. I'm actually probably one of the last generation of labor lawyers to graduate from the University of Pittsburgh Law School in 1993. I'm told they don't even teach the class anymore. But it was tremendously helpful to me throughout my career as both an attorney and human resources administrator. As recently as yesterday, I was serving as Human Resources Director at the Allentown School District. It's a temporary appointment I've held several times over the last 6 years at Allentown School District. Unfortunately, they have been troubled by budgetary problems, a couple of other difficulties, and difficulty in attracting human resources administrators who would keep the position for the amount of money they could pay.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Anybody on the committee? I mean, you will get a question. Absolutely. Right.
There's a couple positions that I take a very keen interest in, and this is one of them because I consider them the no-win positions. Chances are you'll upset more people than you make happy, not because you did anything wrong, but just because of the nature of the job. And sometimes that happens. Maybe it'll be an exception, and I hope it is. But any job that is personnel-centric, that you have a lot of people. And I know you spent time with Lehigh County as assistant solicitor.
Yes, that's true. I was a staff attorney there for 7.5 years.
I know my experience here over the years, both as an elected official and an employee. I hate to compare counties because there's two different cultures.
Yes.
I mean, we're similar in many ways, but we're very different cultures, having worked in both. I would just say this, that I have always had an issue with this county's Human Resources Department, going way back. There were a few people who were very talented and very skilled, if you caught them when they were in. And if you didn't, and if somebody bothered to look up and see that you were standing there, they couldn't help you because we had no cross-training. When I was at Lehigh County, I was very impressed with the professional way they handled their HR department. You would walk in as a counter. Somebody could help you with any issue you had. If they weren't there, somebody was there who could help direct you or at least give you information and give you a specific time when you could talk to someone. And I really was impressed by that. And now that's just one segment. There were other things I'm more impressed with here than over there. But human resources, Mr. McClure touched on it, and I know, I'm sure this is going to happen. It's really about the employees.
Yes.
And I think at times, and I know people talking to me, especially in the last few years, have been really upset because they're almost terrified to walk in that office, or they feel that the only time they're going to hear from Human Resources is if they're in trouble or some bad thing's going to happen, or they're here to review and see what you're doing wrong. I guess it's a matter of a atmosphere. Let's put it that way. And I hope with the new administration and a new HR director that the atmosphere around human resources in the county changes, not just for the employees, but also the retirees. I know there are retirees who have called to try and get information about health care, and have been routed to a couple people, and they never get a call back. So, and they say, well, we don't have somebody for that now, or one thing or another. So, I don't know. I really wasn't that involved in the past few years with it, but I wish you a lot of luck. I'm certainly going to support your nomination, but I mean,
Thank you.
I just hope that as you go in there, you're able to make an assessment. Based on your experience, I'm sure you will. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Werner.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you on your nomination. Okay.
Thank you.
Because that's important. That's the first step. I fully support you. I reviewed your background in municipal and educational law, and it was interesting what you wrote about the Allentown School District. It's all about substitutes, bringing people in to take care of those children, correct?
That's a big need of
Yes.
the school district, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, the fact that you have municipal law background and that you have educational law background, that to me says a great deal. And I hope that you'll look into the policies for travel expenses, the policies for anything that would do a time clock restraint, some kind of controls over the employees that you might run into. You're going to hear these things.
Okay.
You don't know, may not know them now, but you will. And I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Werner.
A question.
Ms.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I just wanted to ask you what you see as your immediate challenges if you're approved for this position. What are some first steps you would take?
I can tell you, based on what I just heard from Mr. Heckman over here, that it is a serious concern of mine if someone walks into the Human Resources Department here and doesn't feel that they got good service. Because I know as an employee, I have worked very hard. I was working very hard at Allentown School District yesterday. I live by the principle that when you're the director, you can't say, you have just left behind that part of your life where you can get away with saying, I don't know how to do that, or that person isn't here. Even if you don't know, you're there to find out. If you doubt that I've done this, please call the superintendent of the Allentown School District, Thomas Parker. A week before Christmas, we had the benefits administrator, our one and only benefits administrator, the only person with login IDs to Highmark, to our workers' comp carriers. There are two because they changed, and some of the claims were under the old carrier. A dental carrier and a vision administrator. No one had IDs but her. She gave us no notice, went on FMLA leave, shortly thereafter resigned her position. Other employees who had never done that job came up to me and said, Liz, we don't know what to do. And I said, you know what, either do I. But I have a contact at Highmark. The person was a witness at one of my labor arbitration hearings. I got on the phone with her immediately. And I will say this for Highmark, they stepped up, they helped us out, and before long, we all had login IDs, and I had filed my very first workers' compensation claim in an electronic system. Also that an employee who got assaulted on the job could go to a doctor. So I do take those things seriously. I believe that if I were that employee, I would want to know that my benefits were in place and there for me when I needed them. I think that good service is a must in that office, and I would do everything I can to make sure that happens here.
Thank you.
Take care of the workers, and the workers will take care of the county.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Seeing any other questions, can we have a motion to move this forward?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Kraft, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, appointment of Sue Wondolowski to the position of Director of Human Services. Mr. McClure.
I can just very briefly, sir, say that, and I can include Ms. Kelly in this as well. Getting into this portion of my nominees who all got better grades than I did, and it caused, because I did okay, it caused me to sort of reconsider my judgment here by hiring people smarter than I am. But the fact of the matter is, I think that's what good government is about. It's about experience, it's about knowledge, and it's about fortitude. And your next nominee has experience, knowledge, and fortitude. This is a highly accomplished professional, and I look forward to her taking on a big job. It's a big job. Probably a bigger job than any other job in the county, but she has the intelligence, and I know personally the toughness to tackle this job if anyone does, and that's why I selected her.
Thank you. Ms. Wondolowski. Good evening.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening.
Introduce yourself to the board.
Sure. I'm Sue Wondolowski, Mr. McClure's nominee for the Director of Human Services. I think you all probably have seen my resume, so whatever questions you might have, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Yes, Mr. Ernst.
Your education's obviously impressive, summa cum laude twice.
Thank you.
I want to know how you think Kids Peace, your background. I'll start over. Great job in college and grad school, summa cum laude, right? Okay, but how do you think that Kids Peace prepared you for your position here as Director of Human Services? And can you describe a little bit about what challenges there you experienced that sort of galvanized you for this experience?
How long do you have?
2 minutes.
Sure.
No.
So I am really ready for this position. I have been at Kids Peace for going on 18 years, worked there in college as well. Prior to that, I had another full-time job as well. So what I do now is I manage, I oversee 3 of our permanency programs, and those are in Bethlehem, Doylestown, and Temple outside of Reading Temple. I manage a staff of 16. We've grown in about the last 6 years from 8 or 9 staff up to 16 and going strong. As I know, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed in this position, they have even more positions to fill because of the growth that we've experienced. So in that job, I have worked with 7 different of our counties, including Northampton. And so, kind of first and foremost, I've already done a lot of work with Northampton County, primarily at the Children and Youth, in the Children and Youth Department. So, but in terms of the other 7 counties, that involved networking and marketing and building relationships with all those folks and supervisors in order to grow our program. So some of the things that I think I've done that I would like to do here are really build a strong team, because I'm one person. It's a big job, and I know that. It's a lot of departments. I lead by example, and by building a strong team, my goal is to be able to support and rely on those team members to run their programs and support them in whatever way possible. I could keep going. Would you like me to keep
Good.
going?
No, I was very impressed with
you.
your answer, and thank you. And you definitely, I support your nomination.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other? Yeah, Mr. Cusick.
Hello, welcome. I don't have anything Latin after my GPA. So, I mean, certainly I think you're well qualified when it comes to the children and youth, and I'm sure some of those skills transfer to the elderly, mental health, developmental programs. But the 800-pound gorilla in this county when it comes to human services is the Graysdale Nursing Home.
Yep.
It's come to my attention that we no longer have a director of nursing at this time.
Okay.
We have a contract with an outside administrator.
Right.
4 years ago, the operating deficit was $6.5 million. Over the last 4 years, it's turned around to the point where it's running a surplus.
Yep.
So I guess my question is, what do you see your role is with regards to the oversight of Graysdale?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, my goals are going to align with Mr. McClure's plans. So, having known him a long time, I know Graysdale's been a fight of his for a very long time. And so, frankly, whatever his plans are, my job is to support his plans and help see those happen. And I also see my job as making Mr. McClure's job easier. So specifically, that I can't necessarily give you specifics without having started and gotten into things. But certainly many of the challenges that I face currently working for a nonprofit where we count reams of paper, you know, and work with really tight budgets and do our best to serve the kids and the families. Those are the kinds of things that will transfer over, you know, over to Graysdale. And a lot of the work that I do now, even though it's children and youth primarily related, you know, your families are drug and alcohol issues. We are seeing, and this is not news to anybody here, we're seeing so many grandparents who are caring for their grandchildren now, and plenty of them who are over 60. So, you know, by definition, would be eligible for services for, you know, from Human Services. So, a lot of that experience will certainly help me with Graysdale, and at the end of the day, I will do whatever it takes to learn what I need to do, and at least the GPA proves that I am capable of learning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I intend to enthusiastically support this nominee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cusick.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Heckman.
Ms. Wondolowski. Is that, am I right? Wondolowski?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I want to be sure I don't butcher
Thank you.
anybody's name. Yeah, as I said to, regarding the HR, this is the second position that you have the largest department, most employees, largest budget. There was a time when I was involved in doing what you're going to be doing.
Right.
And I remember a doctor friend of mine asked what I made based on the employees and that, and I told him, when he got finished laughing, he said, in the private sector, you realize that you make double. I see they've improved the pay, but you still probably are going to get underpaid for what you're going to be dealing with. But that being said, beyond the pay, yeah, this is a situation. We've had a chance to chat briefly.
Sure.
That again is really about personnel. I mean, we share a commonality with Kids Peace. I had also worked for the county. One of the supervisors is sitting in the back there that I was working for at one time, many, I don't want to say decades, some years back. But anyway, the thing is, I will say that I do wish you a lot of luck. The personnel aspect of Human Services, I thought for me, became the biggest challenge. The mechanics of it. Sure. You know, and you'll know as you move along. But if there's any areas that I see where I know, for me, it was personnel and when to apply, what you do and how you interact, because you're going to be juggling personalities.
Absolutely.
One thing in the private sector I did find, and I know we often hear a lot about private versus public, private sector, public sector. I'll be honest with you, the public sector management is much harder than the private sector management. I mean, it really is. First of all, you have, I don't know if you'll have newspapers anymore, but there are folks out there that still write about the county. And when anybody's upset, you know, it's public. Yep. And, you know, as it should be. But I guess my point to you is that as we go forward, I'm not going to get into any specific policies because Ms. Hefner is chairing our and I'm sure we're going to have a fair amount of meetings to go over different specific areas in Human Services. In fact, you have a few direct supervisees sitting in the back, staring at the back of your head. I don't know what's in their minds, but anyway. So the thing is, no, I think you're certainly qualified. I mean, there's no question. If I was qualified, you're certainly qualified. So the thing is, I wish you a great deal of luck and success, and I would hope that you would see County Council as an asset to be used, if possible, to help you. I know there's been some issues that have come up in the past about positions and whether what we should or shouldn't do, and frankly, it's a labor-intensive field. You know, there's an old adage, you can do less with more, which is basically nonsense. I mean, it came up, it was great at the time, but I mean, usually you can do more with, you can maybe be more efficient with what you have at times, sure. But sometimes it's just muscle, and it's just manpower, especially in, as you know from Kids Peace experience. and what we do is still directly dealing with people. And until they come up with a better computer program to do that, I think we'll be doing it for a while. So anyway, I just wanted to say good luck, and I think you're going to just do fine.
Thank you. And I will absolutely be relying on council whenever appropriate, and look forward to working with people if confirmed.
Mr. Warner.
Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you that you have the most serious job of everyone in this area tonight. Besides the county executive, you are going to be a very important person, oversight of 10 divisions. Okay?
Absolutely. It's a lot.
And in those 10 divisions, you're going to be faced with things that have to do with a concern with an aging problem that existed from 2017 that you'll have to be dealing with, okay?
Okay.
And you'll also be dealing with an opioid problem with children and youth, and also those other intersecting programs that have those problems, okay? So I'm not wishing you luck, I'm wishing you well and the best, okay? Because, and it's not that we're not there for you. I just want you to go in with open eyes on this thing. This is a huge undertaking, many people under your guise, okay?
Yep.
The IGT program, the Intergovernmental Transfers, you say you've done work with, I don't know if you work with PACA or the government programs or funding or state funds.
Not at the level of obtaining and
Okay,
and
but
such,
I don't expect that.
Sure.
I'm not, it's not a pressure point. But I want you to be aware of the things that are going on when you walk into this, if you walk into this position, okay? And I am supporting you, but I wanted to, it's a fair forewarning.
Absolutely.
That it's nice to have the job until the problems start.
Well, the problems, I'm pretty sure, have already started.
Yes.
And I'm not there.
No.
I've known about a lot of the problems for a long time, even before Mr. McClure was running for county executive. And so they're not new to me. There will be plenty that I have not known about in terms of the specifics. But I know I'm walking into kind of a hot mess, to be totally honest.
It's nothing that can't be done. That we've
Right.
turned around on with the
Absolutely.
IGT programs with Greystone. We've turned it around. There's good things going on there, and it can be continued. But I want you to be aware of that you have to come up to speed on those things, and it's not easy.
For sure.
And I sat here for 6 years, and it hasn't been easy. So.
Well, I'm not afraid of hard work, obviously, and I'm going to absolutely rely on people who are already the experts, and hopefully create those strong teams to carry those things out. But it's a big job.
Yeah. Well, I wish
but
you well.
I've been forewarned, so thank you.
I wish you well.
Thank you.
I just want to add something, if I could. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Warner. I just wanted to follow up.
Sure.
He said about a mess, and in fairness.
I did say mess.
Well,
no, I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, well, whoever said
If you're
it.
going to state my words.
I'm sorry. The thing is, though, even when you're doing a great job, there's probably going to be messes. I know. When I sat down and I thought, now I have a chance to do long-range planning, which you think is some of your job, the phone would ring, where somebody would walk into the office and we had another fire to put out. So, I mean, I echo Mr. Warner. It's just bouncing around, and it's very difficult. And I know one time when I described it to somebody, people will say, well, here, I have a problem. Can you solve it? And I always say it was like a monkey on your back. And people would say, here, could you take care of my monkey? And I would say, well, okay, if you dole it out to me, I'll deal with it, but then my decision's final. So sometimes that tempered it. But the thing is, yes, I wish you well, because I know I started it, and by the time I was over, I was 20 pounds overweight. I had an ulcer and some gray hairs. But you know what? It's still great experience. I wouldn't go back and change it. It was probably one of the best experiences of my life. So, again, I agree with whatever Mr. Warner said or didn't say, I agree with.
Those are my words.
Okay. Ms. Hefner?
I wish you a better fate than Mr. Heckman, and I hope you have a better colorist than he does. My only question, he painted a very nasty picture.
Realistic.
I was going to say, I describe myself as an optimistic realist. So that's all I'll say about that.
My question to you is, how do you feel about grant funding and reaching outside of the county to find some extra help to deal with the monkeys?
Absolutely. And that's something that is on my list of agenda items to talk to Mr. McClure about. I don't know where that falls with him, and if it falls in line with what his plans are. To me, if you have other avenues of revenue that you can pursue outside of county dollars, or you know, however money is trickling in, you know, to me that's a no-brainer. So the particulars of that, obviously, I don't know, but I'm certainly more than open-minded to that.
And also, what do you see as your first immediate challenge when you take the job?
Well, I have to move further than across the hall or street like Mr. Barron.
Yeah.
My first goal, other than meeting with Mr. McClure to really iron those all those particular details out, is to meet the people, and first and foremost, that will be the directors of all of the programs. And my goal is to find out from them, as Mr. Warner said, the things that have been going well and the successes they've had, and figuring out how we can build on those, and also finding out what each of those departments' biggest challenges are, and seeing what we can do to help support them. As Mr. Heckman said, you know, our world in human services is constantly putting out fires. So my goal is to put out fires, but then prevent them. You know, so that's the hope for long term with this position.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to put forward her. There are
A
none.
motion from Mr. Heckman?
To put forward Ms. Wondolowski's.
Motion made from Mr. Heckman to appointment of Sue Wondolowski to the position of Director of Human Services. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. I'll be moving forward for that for tomorrow night. Okay. Next up, we have appointment of Michael Amell to the position of Director of Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, if the committee will indulge us, I believe Mr. Amelie's boss is with him here today, and he would like to introduce him. I would just, and I don't want to prolong your meeting, but I would just like to say, as council knows, I appointed Mr. Parsons to be Deputy Director of Public Works. And I would like to say that I originally set out to find a partnership in the Director of Public Works and the Deputy Director of Public Works that I think will be an excellent partnership as they fill holes in the other's experience. Okay? And I'd like to say I planned it. I didn't. I just happened to see the two guys in a couple of days, and it dawned on me that Mr. Amelie and Mr. Parsons would be perfect to take your public works into the future working together. Now,
okay.
Good evening. My name is Matt Dorner. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works for the City of Bethlehem. It's kind of strange for me to come here and have great things to say about Mike and be losing him, which is one of the last things that I want to do. But I've worked with him for almost 4 years now, and you know, soon after we hired him, we could tell he was someone we knew we could count on all the time. Very hardworking, very easy to get along with, and very dependable. You know, it's a very good combination of skills for sure. For me, this is very sort of a bittersweet situation. I know it's a great opportunity for Mike. I'm very happy for him. I believe it's a great opportunity for Northampton County. For myself, not so much. It's going to be very difficult to replace him, and you know, that's our challenge. But you know, good luck for all of you. So, without further ado, I'd introduce Mike Amelie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, members of council. I'm honored to be here in front of you tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have for me.
Yeah. How are you? I'm Ken Kraft. I'm looking forward to you having this position. I know the mayor has always spoken. He spoke highly of you also, and I know that nobody wants to lose you in the city of Bethlehem, but I think it's our gain. We have a lot of bridge projects. We have P3 projects, and you're one of your expertise is bridges, right?
Correct.
That's something that you're really, okay, so that's great. For me, that's great, because I want to see that P3 project go through, or find out what is going on with it. I know Mr. Werner will have a lot of questions, because you'll be meeting him and his committee, and I'm sure Mr. Werner has a lot of questions in those regards for bridges and everything, because that was one of our pet projects going back to when we first started. So, thank you, I will support you 100%, and thank you for accepting the nomination.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Kusick.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I looked at your resume. You're extremely well qualified for this position, but I just had a couple questions. The first one is, have you had the opportunity to review the county capital improvements plan that was passed as part of last year's budget?
Yes, I have looked through the capital improvements plan.
Okay. Is there anything there you see as particularly challenging, or what challenges do you see as part of what was in there, or is there anything specifically that you were concerned about?
Well, certainly the maintaining and replacing the county's bridges under the P3 program, as well as the continuing operation and maintenance improvements for the county's facilities at Graysdale, and as well as the county prison.
Yeah. Those are good ones.
You want to write that down?
Yeah, those are good. Those are good ones. All right. Then the only other thing that I had was one of the things we did at the end of the budget process last year is we put a significant amount of money into planning an architectural study for a new morgue. I disappointed the coroner left, but my hope is that you look into that. There are plans that exist from somewhere from about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm hopeful that you take a look at those, meet with the coroner, talk about that with Mr. McClure, and I think it's a project that past councils have supported, and I'm hopeful that it's something that you can review and get back to us with an opinion at some point. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. So no other questions? Mr. Warner.
Mr. Kraft knew I was going to ask him, so. Congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
I don't want you to think I undermined anything. I did meet with Mr. Parsons because we have an ongoing history of what has taken place, and you weren't available. So I will hopefully catch up with you. There's a $20 million budget built on what you have to fix and the things that happen in this county. You have bridge experience. Can you kind of expound on that a bit?
Sure. My first job outside of college, I was working for a consulting company, WSP in New York, and the project that I was assigned to was a major bridge replacement project over Metro North's railroad lines. It was a pretty challenging project that had environmental issues due to lead paint and asbestos that we had to deal with on that project. And I believe I gained a lot of valuable experience working on that. And then during my time with the city of Bethlehem, I've been a project manager on some bridge replacement projects. This past summer, we replaced a pedestrian bridge over the Monocacy Creek right in time for Music Fest. It was a very time-sensitive project that we were able to accomplish on an expedited schedule. It's one that I'm proud to have gotten that one done.
Okay. The bridge program is unique, and probably we are the only county right now, as you might be aware of, that is taking this to task. And the goal is to gain success with it so we can set the models and use the same patterns over and over again, maybe even build on that program for bundling. Okay? And you're familiar with the bundling programs?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I just want to wish you well. It's nice to see a young face. I hope we have legacy programs to train people and keep people here rather than seeing old-timers all the time. But I wish you well, and I hope to move this forward.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Warner. All right. All right. Not
I
seeing.
have a question. I wasn't going to ask, but Mr. Kusick, when he was asking you questions. Anyway, he mentioned about plans, and there are various plans and studies, construction plans, and there have been over the years. And I know there's time frames when something is no longer practical, but I would ask, as a taxpayer as well as an office holder, if you and the executive, if you have ideas on doing something, if we could check some of those shelves out, blow off the dust on some of the studies that have been done over the last 20 to 30 years. I mean, we paid good money for studies that ended up, the next administration came in and said, well, since it wasn't my study, it's no good, just right out of the gate. And so there was 50 grand, and then there's another. I'd rather see that money go to salaries or something like that. Now, I realize not every study is going to work, and you guys may have some new ideas, but that's just the only request I'd have of that as you go forward in your position, that before we start a new study, to see if there's any supporting material that may already exist that could at least be reviewed. And also, if Mr. McClure wants to build a new building, that he try and get rid of one before he builds one. We'll do a one-for-one trade. That's all.
Okay, some good discussion for the upcoming committee meetings, right? All right.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Kraft to appoint the appointment of Michael Amell to the position of Director of Public Works. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, looking forward to working with you.
Looking forward to working with you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Appointment of Melissa Palmer. Melissa
Rudis.
to the position of Director of County Solicitor.
I, as you know, am an attorney and practiced law for more than 20 years, and I sat here where you sit for 10. So I became, some might say, intimately involved in the legal issues that developed through the years while I sat where you're sitting. So I developed because I was a lawyer who represented people who got hurt by their exposure to asbestos, so I didn't have municipal law experience. But sitting there and being able to read a case and read a statute and understand how laws are interpreted by courts, I sort of developed a side expertise in municipal law. And so when I was looking for a county solicitor, I was looking for someone who would be an advocate, a strong advocate, someone who had a reputation for not laying down in a fight, who could advocate their client's position. And when I landed on Melissa for this position, that she was the exact right person, and I know she will represent this county very well.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm Melissa Rudis. I'm a lawyer in Northampton County, and I've been nominated for the position of county solicitor.
Excellent. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Melissa?
I'd like to say I'm glad to see the solicitors from Northampton County, and there's a position in Northampton County Bar Association, unlike the last one, and I fully support your nomination.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Cusick.
Thank you, and I'll second Mr. Kraft's statements there. One of the challenges that we've seen over the years were changes in the right-to-know law. And I believe that the last administration was recommending that we hire an additional person to specifically deal with that. Could you maybe tell us what your understanding of it is and how you will approach that in the Office of County Solicitor?
Yes, I can. Right now, so first of all, coming into this office, I had very little knowledge about right to know. A little bit, not much. Executive McClure has picked excellent assistant solicitors, a number of whom have knowledge of the right to know. At this moment, there is Attorney Brennan, who is one of our assistants, who is our right to know officer. He has come on board gung-ho, has handled these right to know requests that come in frequently, and as you know, there's a deadline for them. We are dealing, I think, with a very poor system through IT, and that is something I'm going to be addressing in the near future. Attorney Brennan will be meeting with IT to go over the full system next week, and then I will be meeting with him, because I think between what Attorney Brennan is telling me and what Sharon Lurch, our office paralegal, is telling me, we have some serious issues that have to be worked out. And I expect the right to knows in the next starting in the next week to the next few months to increase significantly because the Packer case is coming up for a pretrial and a trial. So everyone is on notification that we're going to be hit with a little bit of a storm coming in. But right now, the right to know requests are being handled. Attorney Brennan is doing a great job, and pretty much that's about all he can really handle right now.
Okay. And did you have a chance to review I believe there was was there a personnel request last year that we set aside? I can't recall what it was, but I think.
Was that to eliminate the part-time and make a full-time?
I believe, yeah. Was that what it was?
Yeah, we're evaluating that now, and you may see something from us that in the very near future.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
But if you want to ask her about that.
It's a lot of work. I didn't know about that, but it is an incredible amount of work. We had a staff meeting today between me and the other assistant solicitors to make sure the workload is being evenly distributed. And at this point, I don't think I can even give Attorney Brennan anything else to work on because I know there are other interests he has, for example, workers' comp, but right now, that's a huge job.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I intend to support your nomination.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Sure, comment.
I know that you're going to be a great addition to this cabinet. I know that you're very strong. I know I always forget to turn on my microphone, too. Not just getting used to this. But I know that you are a bulldog and that you will go after anybody who crosses us, and you are going to be a great advocate, and I definitely support you.
Thank you.
And your nomination. Thank you.
Mr. Warner?
Congratulations on your appointment, as I said to everyone tonight. So, and I believe you have all the skills that would be necessary because in the past we have had to ask for people to leave. We had a 30-day out clause. We needed to fight some things, and we needed people to get the job done. My concern, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, if you felt that there would be anything in the future or pending litigation that you might be involved with coming into this county that might impair what you can do with your job.
No, and I've actually talked to Executive McClure about this. I had handled once in a while some children and youth matters. My private office will be taking no more children and youth matters because I can't worry about a conflict. So no, I don't think that there would be.
I'm just asking that we have an administrative code. It's Article 17, and that what that does is it clears up any concerns that might be carried over. And I just needed to ask that question right now.
Yes.
So, but you have my support.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to put her appointment forward for tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, motion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lucio is up next. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, I know we're toward the end of the agenda. So it matters to me who our public defender is. I think for many of my predecessors, it probably didn't matter all that much, but it matters to me. And I wanted to find a chief public defender who will, one, be experienced. So with Mr. Lucio, we have a person who was both a full-time Northampton County public defender and a part-time Northampton County public defender. So there is that level of experience in our county representing our indigent defendants. The other thing I wanted, in addition to the experience, was someone who is known to me, my reputation, because I don't do I don't do criminal law, but I have a relative close to me who does, and I've known Ms. DeLuzio's reputation as a fierce advocate for the rights of her clients. So she also checked that box for me. And finally, my experience as a litigator taught me that it's important to have, with respect to the administrative responsibilities of the chief public defender, someone who has a good relationship with the courts without sacrificing their ability to fight for their client when necessary. And she checks that box off as well. And I'm hard-pressed to find someone in the county who I think would better handle these important responsibilities for us than Mr. Luzio at this time. There has been some question because Mr. Luzio is married to I don't know I don't know if he's the chief or the commissioner. He's the chief of police in Bethlehem, which I'm going to get there. I know. Thank you. See, she's got my back already. Who has a largely administrative role, and there's been some question, and I think for non-lawyers, a perfectly reasonable question to ask, is this a potential conflict of interest? And I can tell you as a lawyer, it is not. I believe we've all seen the opinion letter from one of the PBA reviewers, which concludes that the only potential conflict which might exist would be if Chief, which I don't think he's on the street. No, he's not on the street anymore making arrests. If the chief was testifying in court and Mr. Luzio was defending, there would potentially be a conflict. Other than that, I can tell you, I'm making this choice. Okay, I am the county executive. I'm making this choice, and I would not make a choice that I believed even had the potential to create a conflict of interest. So, without that, I'll turn Mr. Luzio over to you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. It's a pleasure
Good
to be
evening.
here tonight. I'm honored to be nominated for Chief Public Defender, and I want to expand on a couple of things that Mr. McClure said earlier. It's true, my first job out of Temple Law School was as a full-time public defender here in Northampton County. I worked 40 hours a week doing that job, representing indigent defendants. And I was actually hired by Leonard Zito, who is now, of course, one of our judges. It was a pleasure to work with him both as a judge and as a chief public defender. So I have a long history in this county. Started practicing here in 1998. From 98 until about 2001, I was a full-time public defender, and then I transferred to a part-time public defender position, still doing essentially the same work, but that gave me an opportunity to start to build my own private practice. And I've practiced here privately now since, well, probably about 2009, strictly on my own, and I'm very proud of that. Having a long history with this county means that I've come up through the ranks with many of the people who are in higher positions today. Our court administrator, Jermaine Green, and I started out working juvenile court together, so we have a really good, solid working relationship. I think I have a good, solid working relationship with the judges, many of whom were lawyers when I was still practicing and they were practicing. So I look forward to not only serving this administration, but certainly serving our public defender clients fairly and professionally and ethically, as the staff has done for many, many years. And I've worked, if not all of them, almost all of them, as a public defender and in private practice. And I also look forward to working with the courts to move the criminal docket through efficiently and fairly. So I look forward to working with this administration. Excellent.
Great. Okay. Any questions?
I have a question.
Mr.
I just wanted to say it. County government, I've always seen as a service level of government. I mean, that's fundamentally what we do. And I see your position as part of that. I know we get off on different things now and then, and sometimes that gets the headlines. But ultimately, if it weren't for service, I don't know why we'd even exist. Certainly, I think your position, and I've talked about the importance, they're all important positions, but I think you have a very important position because I think in our country nowadays there's a feeling of you're guilty until proven innocent. And I like the idea, and I think well, I don't like it, it's necessary for our system of laws to work. Everyone deserves legal representation, the best possible legal representation we can put forward for them. And if we don't do that, then who's, we're probably failing our system. But I'm looking forward to your service, and I certainly will be supporting you.
And I agree with you on that.
Question?
Yes,
Mr.
congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm the guy who asked for the copy of the Pennsylvania Bar Association letter, and I'll tell you why. Okay, and I am for you're moving this forward for you, but I will tell you that in 2014 we had a situation again, and I believe Mr. Cusick was there. We talked about conflicts of interest. Okay, And the reason I asked for the letter be sent to the entire council was for disclosure. I believe that when your resume was sent, that may have been a help, okay? But the other part of it was that at the bottom of the letter, I can pull it up here real fast. It said the four, and by the way, Mr. McClure cleared this up for me. We had a discussion about it. He was very, very clear about what he was looking for. There was a caveat, and I consider caveats warnings. So when I read this from the Bar Association, it caught my attention. It said the foregoing opinion is advisory only and is not binding on the disciplinary board of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. This opinion carries only such weight as an appropriate reviewing authority may choose as given. Moreover, this is the opinion of only one member of the committee. And that was where my question existed. I was under the assumption it was the Pennsylvania Bar Association committee, and it turns out that it's one person on the committee that gives the opinion. So that was a lay question.
Mm-hmm.
It was not meant to be anything, adversarial.
I can comment on that if
Okay.
you like. Okay, so Victoria White is the person designated in the PBA to issue advisory opinions, and I had several conversations with her, and I exchanged several emails with her about this issue because I knew that this probably would be a question, and a fair question. The way it was explained to me is that Victoria is responsible for drafting the opinion based on the rules. She circulates it then to the committee, and if there are no objections from the committee, rather, it's issued. So I know I can say, based on my discussions with her, that it was reviewed by the committee. I don't know how else to further explain that particular comment, but that's the procedure.
See, my question came from that these are just advisory opinions from my understanding of it, and I'm not even close to being a lawyer, but if it's an advisory or an opinion, that some situations may come up that would warrant it to be discussed.
Right. So let me explain it this way, if this helps. So the disciplinary board, its function is not to provide advisory opinions to lawyers on their prospective conduct. That they don't do that. If you call them and ask them for one, they say, I'm sorry, we can't help you. So the PBA really is a nonprofit organization, and as a member of the PBA, that's one of the benefits that I as a lawyer have. I can seek an opinion, and what they do is, of course, they review the rules of professional conduct, and they determine whether any conduct based on the set of circumstances I've provided prospectively could create a conflict. So that's actually the best evidence that I think any lawyer in Pennsylvania could get to determine whether prospective conduct would create a conflict. The only time the disciplinary board would get involved in anything is if someone raised a complaint and they thought an investigation was warranted, and then they're charged with issuing discipline or reprimand or something like that. So, Mr. Warner, that is the best possible evidence I have that my conduct, or my position, I should say, as Chief Public Defender would not create a conflict going forward.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Kusick.
Thank you. Congratulations on your appointment. I had a couple questions. The first one relates to the drug court. Have you had any experience with the Northampton County Drug Court, and what's your perspective on that?
I have had limited experience with it. Private clients typically have not gone through that process, and it's a relatively new program that they have. I know that it's held in front of Judge Daly on Thursdays. I think it's more of a diversionary program so that we keep drug offenders out of the prisons because, we're overpopulating them with people who have, minor drug offenses. And so it's more of a diversionary program. And I know that the public defender who's handling that right now is Rory Driscoll, and he's doing a terrific job, and I think it's going very well. But I don't know more than that.
Okay. And you mentioned your relationships with the courts. I guess the question that I had is, what do you believe the public defender's relationship should be with the DA's office?
Good question. Adversarial. No, I don't think so. Not at all. Not at all. Look, I've been practicing privately and as a public defender for many, many years. So I consider many of the people on the the DA staff friends, really including John Morganelli. We have, we know each other. It's hard not to be friendly with those people if you're working with them on a day-to-day basis. So going back to what Mr. Heckman said, I do believe that every defendant should be presumed innocent, and I think they are in this county. The public defender's office and the DA's office does a terrific job. But good relationships with assistant district attorneys come into play when you have cases that sometimes defending the client doesn't mean going to trial and putting on a full, public display. Sometimes when you have good relationships, you can work out really good deals, and that's advocating for your client. And I'm not suggesting that anybody would give me a better deal than anybody else, but when you have good relationships, right, with your friends, you look to those people to say, can we work something out? Can we be creative here? And that's happened, and that's a good thing for the client.
And my last question, based on your previous experience, did you believe that the public defender's office was adequately staffed?
Now or when I was there?
Both.
I think when I was there, I would say yes. I think that we had enough lawyers to handle the caseloads. But let me tell you that in 2017, our office handled 80% of the criminal cases in Northampton County, which amounted to about 2,500 cases. We're fortunate that we have really good experienced attorneys on the staff, including 5 death penalty certified attorneys. And just so you know, there's only, I think, 10 in the entire county, or Lehigh Valley? Lehigh Valley. So we have a good staff in that respect. Probably, based on what I know with working with Ms. Joseph and some of the other people in the public defender's office, I can see asking council to approve another full-time position, because what happens is it's not just the caseload, right? It's the duty days. So you've got drug court, you've got mental health court, which is extremely burdensome. You have bail hearings, you have PFA contempts, you have formal arraignments, which are twice a month, and they go all day long. And then you have duty days on Fridays, which is our miscellaneous court day. So right now, our staff, each attorney is handling, I would say, between about 37 and 45 cases, just, their own public defender cases. That doesn't include whatever they do privately. So we're stretched a little thin, and I think having another full-time public defender would help, because what I would do is assign that full-time public defender to more of the duty days, the mental health, the drug court, those kind of things, which would free up the other members of the staff and try to sort of take the cases and spread them out a little bit more. So we need some more help, but I think right now we're okay.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just want to say, I think you handled yourself. I was really, really impressed with your answers to all the questions that were given. So
I was waiting for Mr. Spadoni to ask a question.
Do you have anything?
A comment, at least. No comment?
Comment?
I make a motion that we recommend for full council tomorrow night.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, and look forward to working with you. Okay, we got a couple
Section
more things
3.
to do yet.
Who set this agenda up?
Okay, we have a resolution here in front of me, and it's actually to eliminate full-time position of Aging Care Manager 2 of a salary of $39,466, and adding a position of a full-time position of Aging Care Manager 3 to the salary of $43,471, and we'd like to move that for tomorrow's meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second part. Better read the second part.
Just
May I
ask
ask the second part?
Question.
Just generally, I don't know if anyone's here, but I mean, and I always ask this in January, why wasn't this part of the budget that we passed 6-7 weeks ago?
Mr. Mailer is here, and hopefully will provide you with an answer.
Okay.
You got to read the second part, too.
Okay, the second part.
Just read the second
Can
part.
I read the second part here? Okay, and the second part is
further resolved.
Further resolved to eliminate one full-time position of fiscal officer 2, pay grade and salary of $46,357, and to create a position of a full-time position of an accountant 2, pay grade of $46,357. Okay. And
yeah, just to repeat it if you didn't hear it. My question, okay. Why wasn't this part of the budget that we passed in December?
The issue of the Aging Care Manager 3, which is a protective services position in the Area Agency on Aging, was something that had been discussed probably for over a year or so. And unfortunately, there was not approval given administratively to bring that to this body until this point in time.
So I guess what you're saying is the previous administration didn't want to put these positions forward. Is that?
I have a follow-up on that. Reading the paperwork that's not here, these positions are passed through, they're paid for by the state.
That is correct.
So it's no cost on our budget, and it's no, we don't incur anything on our budget. They're both passed through, they're paid for by the state. That paperwork isn't here, but it was here when I read it on the part we got from the email. So, I mean,
in the memos.
I don't know why the previous administration wouldn't want these positions that needed to be filled when they were requested, because you've been here before saying how much you needed people, I believe, pretty dire. And I fully support this. Seeing as not a budgetary, it's not going to affect us either way.
Question, Mr. Heckman?
Hi, John. Hi, John. John, where do we stand now in Pennsylvania? We were number 2 with elderly. Where do we rank now about?
We're about number 4, number 5 now.
4, number 5?
Yeah.
We're still pretty great.
Yes, very much so.
Mr. Werner and I will attest to that. But the thing is, are you still, your funding stream, aging's funding stream has always been rather low in comparison to other divisions, I mean the state. Have you seen funding streams from the state keep pace with what's happening with our population?
No, I will say that about probably maybe 6-7 years ago, there was a major increase that did come to the Area Agency on Aging through the Corbett administration. All area agencies on aging benefited from increased lottery funds that were provided at that point in time. But in terms of what the need is, no, the funding is not.
I know. Pace. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said the funding has not kept pace. You're correct.
I mean, you and I have spent a great deal of time together on the Alliance for Aging.
Yes.
Over the years. And I'm aware of shortcomings in the community as a whole. And I see what you've done here, and I know we had to do this all the time. You get rid of one, you make a new one that you need. And that's fiscally responsible. I just want you to know, like going forward, and I know for Ms. Wondolowski, maybe we might be getting into a territory where we may have to consider spending county money in order to get the job done that goes above and beyond what we get from the state. I'm not saying we're going to do that, I'm not saying we should do that. I think it's just something that we should put on our radar, because frankly, in some areas the state isn't keeping, it's sort of like school funding. At one time the state-funded school districts at this amount, and over the years that's slowly shifted to the local. And my fear has always been, and I think it's in some regards bearing fruit for the witness, is that they're not keeping pace, particularly in aging. And that concerns me. So, I mean, I would just say to you that through your director, if you think there's certain things that have to be done, hopefully, and I know you well enough. I know Mr. Miller for some time. You do shoulder a lot of responsibility, and you're very serious, and you understand how county works and how jobs happen. But I think you may find a receptive board to any real service needs that you see out there. I just put that out there for you.
County council and administrations in the past have been, and I have no reason to think this administration wouldn't be, even though it's in just its beginning days. But county councils and administrations in the past have been supportive for the most part, so we do appreciate that very much. We couldn't function without it.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So is the elimination of these positions motivated by the budget, and is it necessary that they be eliminated? Would the preference be that they're not?
The preference would be, first of all, that we have the Aging Care Manager 3. We badly need that in the protective service area because of the increase in the number of cases. This year we project that we could very easily exceed 500 reports of need of elder abuse, neglect, exploitation, and abandonment. Those have to be investigated and served by Aging Care Manager 3, so we definitely need that position. Mm-hmm. We have also been without a fiscal person, an accountant in the division since the end of September. And we've been very fortunate that we've been receiving basically coverage from other people within the Department of Human Services, but that situation can't go on. We decided to look at an accountant versus the fiscal officer because the accountant classification under state civil service actually requires more accounting training, and that's what we really need to focus on. So in the case of the fiscal position, yes, the preference is to eliminate and bring in an accountant. We really only need one person in that position.
But is this a sacrifice that you're making, one over the other, when there is still a need for all of those positions?
There's a need for, as I said, the accountant position, not for the fiscal officer at this point. In the best of all possible worlds, we might look at keeping an aging care manager 2 and creating an aging care manager 3, but we are frankly in kind of an emergency situation at this point in time, and we need to get that aging care manager 3 on staff.
I'm glad you guys are moving forward with this. Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
This red rating that came through in November that we got hit with,
yes.
Was that in the making before we had the programs that we were changing, or are you aware of how we can change the program to fix that?
Actually, creating this aging care manager 3 position is part of our response to fixing this, yes. I mean, part of the situation is just as I said, we went from receiving 200 and some reports to well over 300 to this year we project over 500. That's why we need additional staff. What we were cited for were things like cases being open too long, somebody having too many cases, documentation not getting completed. That's all reflective of a lack of staff.
Is there a time frame that we can get that corrected with these people?
We're working on that right now.
Okay.
We're actively working on that right now. We're in touch pretty much probably every 2 or 3 days with the Department of Aging in Harrisburg, and we're actively working on that right now.
And in all fairness, that we were one of only 4 counties that were judged under the new regulations. So,
yeah, what I am hearing statewide is that out of about 11 or so monitorings that were done, 8 of them were not good. Okay. So it is a problem across the state.
Part of it is the new regs that come out that hit us when we're not ready or we're not accepted.
New expectations and the fact that our state association did a survey recently, but before all of this came out, and the indication was that to make protective services statewide right, so to speak, would take upwards of $5.6 million. So,
thank you.
So these are the tools you need to get the job done.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
All right. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
A motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
If I could just really quickly, Mr. Chairman, I know we're approaching 6 o'clock, but Mr. Heckman, let me fill the positions that have been identified since I sat here that were unfilled, that are funded with pass-through money. Let me get my handle on that first. That's what I'm here. That's why I signed these requests that had previously been unsigned. So
I'm not going to do anything in my power to stop you.
Okay, but let me do that first before we start talking about committing county money.
I just wanted to send him a signal that I think we, from my own past experience, I know the pressures that sometimes are put on folks by administrations on jobs, and not that you're going to, but I just
well, no, because when I sat there, I identified these vacancies were unacceptable because they were placing children and the elderly at risk, and I'm going to rectify that.
Well, I appreciate it.
But just be patient with me.
Oh.
Mr. Warner, yes, with response to the F that we received, we're not getting Fs. It's an F we inherited. There will be no Fs in this administration, and we're not going to make any excuses for it either. There are no excuses. We got that F. We earned it from the Department of Aging, and we're going to make those. Part of the corrective action is me signing this to get these positions changed and filled, and there will be no excuses. We must protect our elderly. And I won't come here and make excuses in the future to you. We're going to protect our elderly, and we will not get another F. That I promise.
Thank you. Okay, one more resolution here I have in front of me. It's a resolution to create one full-time position of caseworker manager 2, pay grade HS 42B, salary of $55,281. And I'm looking for a motion for that, or do you want to speak to that?
Mr. Dolan's here, and I think he'll offer a brief explanation as to why he thinks this is necessary.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just some new faces that I haven't seen over all the years. I'm Kevin Dolan, the administrator for the Northampton County Children and Youth Division. And what has happened is the cases have just exploded. Some of you have heard this. But in 2014, we received 3,154 calls asking us to assess children's situations. Then Sandusky hit. And in 2015, we jumped from 3,000 to 5,617. In 2016, we jumped to 6,061. And last year, when we finished up in December, we finished up with 6,989. And that's with the same staff. And we are just totally overwhelmed. Some of you, I invite any of you to come down, and I'll get a waiver and have you sit with the workers and see what they're doing. But we're totally overwhelmed. And what I need at this point is the manager 2, the program director, over general protective services. We're broken into 3 sections. The total child abuse, both investigations and handling it after we've made a determination. Then general protective services, which is kind of a catch-all, but there are a lot of the drug cases that we're dealing with. That's general protective services in a very brief statement. And then permanency, which is foster care, adoption, and finding relatives for placement of children. And I don't know if Zach's gone. We just handled a terrible case up in Northampton. Zach was great. Our staff had to stay up there for 3.5 hours with the children that were left behind after Zach was doing his work. And we couldn't call the relatives because we couldn't explain to them why we needed to place the children with the relatives. So the Northampton police, Zach, and my 3 staff stayed there for 3.5 hours until 2:30 in the morning, working on that. So those are the types of cases that we have been getting, and at this point, it's a disservice to my general protective service workers not to have someone over them to help them manage the amount of cases that are coming in. And that's why I'm asking for this. And Mr. Cusick, John Mailer was much more diplomatic in his response, but until noon on the day of our hearing, these positions were in the budget. The other, I'm finishing, this position is funded 90%, 80% state, 10% federal. So 90% of the salary, 90% of the benefits, and 90% of the county contribution to pension are covered by the state and the federal government in this.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Warner.
Mr. Dolan, thank you for being here. I'm not going to say congratulations on your appointment. That's out of my realm now. We have had many meetings.
Yes, we have.
Mr. McClure, the new executive, in August of 2017, had his news conference and brought out the fact about the problems that existed in the endangerment of children and elderly. In September of 2017, we had you came to this, not to this council, the newer members here, and you poured out your heart to the needs of what you felt would help. And we did have a state representative, Freeman, myself, and a number of people meet with your group.
Correct.
And the Auditor General is involved also now, and
Yes.
we're getting some responses. It is not about money, correct? It's not all about the money.
It's not about money. It's just with trying to get the staff to have the ability to wrap their arms around the amount of cases
Yes.
that they have. Because when you feel that your caseload's totally out of control and you possibly made the wrong decision regarding a child, the pressure gets on you so great that they finally turn in their resignation or ask to be transferred to another department because they just can't handle that emotional worry about what's going to happen to the children. So,
For the sake of the new members that are here, there were 3 requests you had. One was for the consideration for a civil service program revamping, easing up on those types of programs. The second one was reduction of forms and paperwork, which is also causing problems. And the third was flexibility on that mandatory 20-hour training for the kinship program. And have you had any relief in those 3 areas?
we're starting to have some success. Interesting, the Auditor General has truly taken this seriously, yes. And he's actually has gone out to counties and sat with caseworkers and sat with them at their computers and looked at the work and the craziness of putting the information into CWIS, which is the Child Welfare Information System, and CAPS, the Child Accounting Profile System, and he's just been shaking his head. So he's been looking at, the governor told him to give him 3 recommendations that he could immediately impact. Yes. So actually he was away running, I think, an ultra marathon. But he's back, and I think sometime in February he will be making those recommendations to the governor.
Okay. Oh, I wish you well, and
Thank
I will
you.
be there if you have another meeting and you need anything. Okay.
Great, you've
Thank
been
you.
great with us.
Question.
Mr. Dolan, I look forward to working with you, and I'll take you up on your offer because I would like to come and meet your staff and see what's happening. Do you think that most of the requirements are coming from the state in terms of their mandates for reporting, or are they just over-existing, overlapping systems of reporting that are burying your service workers' abilities to actually work with people rather than paper?
Well, it's kind of crazy because it's both. It's the state and the federal government. And one of the things that's hurting us time-wise is ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And just arranging the transportation, the districts have been great working with us, but just arranging the transportation from the foster home to the school has been tremendous, because the law said the child, no matter where we place the child still stays in the school that he or she was in. Mm-hmm. So we have that from the federal government. And then I keep on mentioning the Sandusky Laws. There were 33 of them, and some of them were, a bit overreaching, but they're the laws, so we have to enact them. And then Pennsylvania failed the federal review about 10 years ago, and they had to have a unified information system. So they came up with a system called the Child Welfare Information System, which is like the NCIC of children and youth. It's very, very cumbersome. And we also had to have another system for the county that fed into the CWIS system. So we chose CAPS, which is the Child Accounting Profile System. And I would like you to sit with my caseworkers and watch them put that in, because what it does is it takes them off the street while they do all this just overburdened stuff that I don't think is necessary.
Thank
I have a question. Hey, Kevin. I know this it's gone on forever, but I just have to ask you, and you alluded to it, the turnover rate, whether it's resignation or people will stay a while, and as soon as they can, if they get a chance, they want to transfer to another division. Is that still as wild as it's ever been?
Yes, it hasn't changed.
And I know there were times civil service sort of locks us into a situation where we pay every kind of caseworker the same amount, which my personal belief has always been we should do different things and different levels. But that being said, has there been any discussions lately, and since you're here, that's why I'm asking, with the union, and I know you mentioned civil service, that possibly we could try a pilot with wages for children, youth, and family positions, because I understand the problem, and it's true that I would guess I don't know what your turnover rate is, but it's always been horrendous, and with all this stuff, I know we talked about the Sandusky Laws a few years ago when I bumped into you. It's got to be horrendous at this point.
Yeah, and actually, with being in the same building, when my staff transfer to mental health or some of the other divisions, they're the best recruiters for that division, because they say, come on over to this division. You don't have to work late at night. You don't have to worry about kids, the kids dying. You can walk out of here. You have your weekends free. And my workers say, "Oh, hey, yeah, is there a position open over there? I'm going to apply for it."
Well, I wish you luck. I mean, I know I tried through CCAP, and we went and we were trying to see if we could get something going with the state to try some things, and the state always seemed to. Well, it's not that the state's unimaginative in many ways, and there wasn't much CCAP could do. But I wish you a lot of luck, and I support this, obviously.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Motion to move this forward tomorrow?
Lori? Okay, motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks.